All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new type podcast. I'm Kaiser Shonen, and I'm joined here with my
Look
co-hosts Lone
around
Crit
you,
and
look
co-player.
beyond. You can make an unbreakable bond. The world around you's not what it seems. It's all revealed beyond your wildest dreams.
Loncro, why the fuck do you have an aura? I'm CBF, by the way.
So many
things
things I never could see. So many choices
So many
falling
choices
on me.
fall upon me.
Could
Could
it
be
be
my
my
destiny to be
To be
Shaman
Shaman
King.
King.
Oh, sure, ignore me,
To
why
be
don't you?
Shaman King.
Shaman King, to be Shaman King.
Doing it
Shaman
strong.
King.
You could be the one.
one. So, Kaiser,
don't know
I
this
take it you
song.
watched. So, Kaiser, I take it you watched the new Shaman King. Also, CBF, you can materialize an aura too if you really try.
Try
Or
it.
you just go
What?
without
Believe
any
what?
pussy for all your life.
Hey, look, CBF's aura appeared.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It was effortless.
What an unbelievable coincidence.
You see,
Of
one
course.
thing that one of my best friends at IRL had taught me is that small dick energy leads to small dick jokes lead to big dick energy.
What does
Of
small
course.
dick energy lead to then?
Big dick jokes.
I'll let you figure that one out.
But I'm not a My Hero Academia fan.
None of us are.
Oh no, they just have small dicks in general.
No, I'm just joking. Everybody knows that you don't have a small dick if you're a My Hero Academia fan. It's just that your balls haven't been dropped. Or you have no balls.
No,
in
they
the
do
first
have a
place.
dick. It's just that it's so small, it might as well just be a middle testicle.
Yeah, you imagine them just having like fucking tiny ass tweezers and like seeing a picture of Midnight by cute sexy butts going like
Okay, enough talking about human stories. Let's talk about an inhuman story. Kaiser, I take it
Well,
you
yes,
also
it's a-
watched? I take it you also watched the new Shaman King?
Yes, which is not a human story because it's a story about ghosts and spirits and gods. So yeah, Shaman King, the new one. I watched not only that, but also the first two episodes of the original recently. But I'll get to that in a minute. But one thing I gotta credit about the new one really is the
And the
visuals because yeah, the OP visuals are definitely pretty good, if not a bit on the generic side in terms of what happens in them.
Wasn't the
A
OP
lot
done
of
by
it-
Megumi Hayashibara?
I don't know.
I only know that they're great, and she's great, and she did both Rakugo OPs.
Oh yeah,
But yes,
Yeah.
I did not know that, and I also don't know who Megumi Hayashibara is.
You should know that she did Slayer's OPs.
Oh, okay, that's good.
yeah, that's great. So enough about Lone Crit being uncultured. First episode of
Flashy.
Shaman King. Yeah, first episode of new Shaman King is pretty much just exactly like the original, except certain events are like a bit rushed because here's where the old
Kaiser,
version.
I was gonna say, I've seen the original as well, albeit years and years ago. I remember with, like, Amidamaru and his best friend, there being, like, a little more stuff there. Like, I remember Amidamaru having the
Yeah.
sword replica and, like, somehow breaking it or something, and his friend was annoyed or something, and there was, like, a little bit more of a conflict there, and a little bit of more of a resistance to going with Yo. But here it just feels like, I can't go with you, but I brought you this sword. Your friend sold us a piece. Oh, okay, never mind, I'm going with you now.
Yeah, basically, like I watched it. Here's the thing in the original, the thing about the freaking, what was it? Amidamaru's sword and the blacksmith he was he was bros with when he was alive, was all of that was in the second episode, which gave more gravity to like Amidamaru's decision to go with Yo and to like, get him into becoming king. Not to mention they introduced Basson and the other dude like really early at the end as well.
That
Which is
doesn't
also really weird.
count, though. Oh, by the way, Ren
Sure.
was always my favorite character. Fuck you, fight me.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, there we go.
Always
Lone
the
Crit
coolest.
just keeping up with the edgelord status.
Hey, deuteragonists are better than protagonists, okay? Okay.
Well, you're not wrong there, but
Tell that to Spike Spiegel.
Okay, moving on. Regarding what you said about the visuals, I actually wasn't so keen on those. It seemed a little bit overexpressive and just lively in both, like, the color palette being way too light, and the characters being overexpressive, but simultaneously sometimes background ones not being expressive enough. It felt weirdly cartoony for the kind of subject material, and now it tries to go about that in the way that I don't remember for the original, where the mid-2000 visuals seemed to much better kind of convey that down-to-earthness.
Yeah, and this is where I have to go at another aspect of the show, where it's like, yeah, you're right. Like since a lot more attention, ignoring that, since like the colors are like much brighter in this new one as opposed to the old one, that's so like to have, I guess, this sort of faux, sort of Hunter x Hunter updated feel, I guess. It kind of robs it of this sort of like spooky vibe that the original was trying to put out and what best fit the subject matter of the story. And especially since with things being rushed so much in the first episode, the characters themselves came off as a lot less expressive and the jokes landing not as good.
Yeah, you know what else?
Like
regarding voice acting...
Just a second. Oh, go ahead.
Regarding voice acting, it felt a little bit weird to me, because Yo sounded a lot like a girl. Like, is done by a female voice actress, obviously, but Yo doesn't even sound like a young boy, which is odd, because he's supposed to be either in junior high or high school, I think. He just sounds like a girl.
Yeah.
And, as I said this, I feel they don't quite get his character right, or at least as well as in the original, as, what is supposed to be tranquility, a feeling of tranquility and at-peaceness, based on what I've seen from the original anime and images I've seen from the manga. Instead, in this one, sounds more like childish carelessness, or carefreeness, rather. You get what you get what I mean?
I get what you mean. Like, the whole point of Yo isn't necessarily that he is, like, actually dumb. I mean, he is. But not just that. It's just more so the fact that he's laid back is what allows him to further unify and control spirits and shit. And the voice acting is supposed to convey that. But I don't really feel it was as strong there. But even going as far with like the stuff with I mean, I know he has a different name in the Japanese version, but I'm gonna call him Morty. I'm gonna call him Morty because God damn it, Morty.
Okay.
But like with
Sanchez.
But with like that sounds like a rapper name, to be honest. There's probably a young
holy
Sanchez
shit,
out there,
it does.
some shit.
I was gonna say though, the kid, he sounds like an old woman.
Yeah, and not just that, but even certain events in the story feel less like earned. Like in this one, no, actually, better yet, in the original, right after Ryu, the pompadour douchebag, who's also the goat,
He is.
Yeah.
Either Ren is my favorite character, or that guy.
Yes. So after Ryu beat the shit out of Morty, when he showed up in class the next day and he told his friends about what happened, like in this version, in this version, immediately his friends in the classroom were all like laughing at him. But in the original, they were actually concerned for his fucking safety, if a bit, on the sort of in the sense that, we don't want you dragging trouble to us, at least at the end of that conversation.
Yeah, it feels
still
really
it came off
in such respects.
Yeah.
Having said that,
most of the other jokes.
Having said that, the entire second half of the episode made it for me. That like, yeah, it was like
Same
very
here.
fast. Like what you're saying about like the beats, here's what it's like. It's just generic shonen first chaptery, where it goes like bam 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 bam, just to get the setup out of the way and doesn't actually get much of anything across. That's what
Right.
it feels like to me. But like the second half, when they get like into the fight, first of all, the fight, really cool, and I love that they seem to be initiating the long-running joke of Ryu's pompadour and how it changes shape. I love that.
Yes.
Just Amidamaru, the way he talks and all of that shit, awesome. Although having said that though, especially in the flashbacks, his kind of jovial bro-ishness, I feel that's not really what was cool about the character in the first place, but whatever. And then the whole thing about the soul fusion with Yo, when he grabs Amidamaru's soul and presses it into his heart, that shit is where it was at.
Yeah, pretty much. Have you ever seen Shaman King CBF, by the way?
No, neither this version nor the original. Though from what initially I was thinking, so I almost wonder if this is gonna go a Brotherhood approach, in which is like, oh, the beginning is a little bit truncated, but then it just adapts everything that people wanted to be adapted.
It's not
But
his fault.
judging from
Yeah,
what your
it
thoughts on the
seems-
second half of the episode were, I'm not sure.
It's not his fault, Kaiser. There are just so many things he can never see. So many choices falling on him.
I mean, choices fall upon him.
Unlike
but
Yo,
like,
though,
yeah, it seems
unlike
like they're
Yo, though,
going.
it's not his destiny to be anime king, to be anime reviewer king.
Please, I'm the only anime
Not that-
reviewer of the three of us.
I mean, right now you are, but soon we'll be catching up. I got some scripts lined up for that shit. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. But
Yeah.
Oh, same.
yeah, it seems like they're going to be a bit more closer to the manga, which part of it is why, you know, in like the first episode of the new one, it kind of starts off with them just like having Yo's grandfather trying to kill his twin brother as a baby.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, when Yo goes, my grandfather said, all I could think is, Grandma said this, walking the path of heaven, the man who shall rule over everything.
Okay,
God damn.
Kabuto fan, grandmother said this. Shut up.
Well, I will not shut up, and not only that, but I will proceed to introduce the GOAT of the current season, motherfucking SSSS.Dynazenon!
Yeah,
that was another
man,
season,
that shit was
one I was
fucking
actually dragging
hype.
to watching.
Oh,
Yeah, that shit was
Okay,
fucking
oh.
hype.
poor you. That shit was indeed very hype. I liked literally everything about it. That's, to me, what like a big scale toku anime should be like. It took everything I disliked or didn't care for about Gridman and just yeeted it out and just tagged it in with something
It gave
more
it
fun or
drugs.
interesting.
I gave it drugs.
Yeah,
That's
like
what it
fuck the Gridman white rice skimmed milk porridge motherfucker. Instead, we get this dude with like cool blue hair who acts kind of like a regular dude. Weird dude comes up to you, ooh, weird. Cool.
Yeah.
Like fuck off, but be polite about it. And the way he talks with his friends,
Yeah.
hears rumors, is weirdly trusting. All of that shit, that's great. You take the boring ass, admittedly understandable best friend, you tag it in with like Kamino, weird ass zombie looking monster hunter,
Yeah,
Pokemon
Galmon.
master wannabe motherfucker.
The guy who looks like an edgelord but is actually just like the most heart of gold person.
Yeah, he's a bro.
Yeah.
That's what he is. That's what he is.
An eccentric bro, yes.
When you look like an edgelord, but you're actually fucking Yusuke Goda.
It's basically like the sword guy from Gridman, but probably better.
Caliber.
Probably.
Okay. Caliber was like my favorite character in Gridman. Him or
Same.
Auntie. But like, regardless, yeah, this guy is awesome. I just love when he pulls such a shonen-y bro move where he just runs and finds the girl and then
Yes.
tells her off when he doesn't show up to the date. I'm like, yeah, I liked him already, but that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Tell
There are
off
three
that woman.
things that you should never break. In literally almost verbatim what I'm about to say, he's like promises, love, and she's like, "Are you done? Hold on."
Silence, wench! I am
Yeah,
about
be gone.
to finish.
Be silent, thought. Let me mansplain the value
Yeah,
of life
that's
to
what-
you.
Yeah, that's that whole fucking exchange, and I love everything about it. But even like some
At
of the
times like
unironic,
this, you have to wonder why we don't have a female audience, most likely.
not yet.
We might. Sarah's probably gonna be watching eventually. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
But
But yeah,
like,
that
there
guy. Like CBF,
Hmm.
you liked that, right? I'm assuming from your tone you liked that shit.
Yeah, and I also found it interesting that it was still about as like very airy and spacey and quiet as the introduction to Gridman was.
Yeah,
It was way more.
It didn't have
engaging,
like
though.
any interesting weird jump cuts, but it still had this sense
Right.
of, well, it was less a sense of awkwardness that the original tried to that Gridman tried to convey, and more just a sense of like quietness and reservedness before, you know, shit hit the fan. And giant robots showed up.
Yeah, but for some
Right.
reason... Oh, actually, Kaiser and I group watched this together, right? And there's this one scene where just, like, a trash can starts flying directly upwards like reality is glitching. Like that one motherfucker who flops like a dying fish in the air in Angel Beats. And Kaiser and I laughed so hard that we rewound that shit and just to watch it again.
No, the thing was, what immediately came to my mind when I saw that shit was like, I think it was when Adam from Your Movie Sucks was like playing through Beyond Two Souls, and or like maybe some Life is Strange or some kind of shit, and he sees like at the corner of his eye like an NPC just kind of clipping in the background or like going up to the sky.
And it was at that moment that you decided you'd give this an 8 out of 10.
It was at that moment I decided I would give this an 8 out of 10, yes. Well, actually, no. No, it's when the mech transformed into a massive fuck you dragon.
Yeah, well, the freaking
like a gigantic T-Rex motherfucker
in the background.
Yeah, T-Rex dragon red fire-breathing thing.
Along with Masayoshi Oishi's kick-ass theme song.
Meanwhile, Kaiser, I can feel your stiffy when we saw the enemy monster look like the first opponent in Mazinger Z, except with one head.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until I went back to rewatch the episode a second time. But yeah, you're kind of right. He kind of looks like that, to be honest. Which I wouldn't be surprised because
from? Behind.
By the way, I was just so in awe when its neck started stretching like Renji's Zanpakuto in Bleach, or like that motherfucker's four-headed snake sword in Chivalry of a Failed Knight. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, like this show just keeps upping the ante. That feeling when your opponent's neck stretches like a motherfucking bleach sword. What do? Transform into giant dragon fuck you red T-Rex.
Chop the sword like it's fucking done.
Yes.
That shit was fucking dope, man. The whole fight scene in general was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like, even some of the mundane stuff, like, I never really hated the dialogue in Gridman. In fact, I think that was one of its better aspects, at least in terms of comedic value, somewhat. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the directing is much stronger. The dialogue feels a lot more natural, with like the characters feeling expressive in the right amount of ways. And just like everything in general with the comedic timing just felt kind of sort of deadpan in a lot of ways, but still very good.
Yeah, Akira Amemiya's direction was generally pretty solid in both Gridman and here. I noticed that there are even more like fun color splotch lens flare things here that made it just a little bit more vibrant, along with the more eccentric character designs. And yeah, he definitely seems to make a statement with some of this stuff in these shows.
Yeah, comedy-wise, by the way, I really love the bit where Yomogi is interacting with Gauma for the first time, and you can just see him grow increasingly more uncomfortable while Gauma's talking and grabbing his ankle. And being like increasingly more...
Or like Chise's interactions with Koyomi when she's just trying to get him out of bed so he can come with her outside to check the weird stuff going on. She's just like,
Yeah.
hey, wake up. He just keeps hitting him while he's just like clenched in under the covers.
Yeah, the thing
Oh,
is, I
now
still
that you
feel
meant.
that. Wait a sec. I actually
Yeah.
really feel that Yomogi and Gauma thing, because very occasionally when I'm going for a walk, some guy who's like drunk or high will talk to me and act super weird. Like once I was crossing the road and some old dude goes out for a handshake. I was like, oh, okay, and I go along with it. And then he just sort of, as I'm crossing the street, and he just pulls me back to the pavement and starts talking about some absolutely incomprehensible stuff while not letting go of my hand in the handshake. And internally, I was just freaking out. I felt like I might be in danger or something. And that's not even getting into one time in some dude in Greece seemed straight up crazy. But that aside, that was a mood. I felt that.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that part about that dude in the bed, when he kind of got dragged into the mech rack, because I remember this, because there was one part when like the main dude and like the two other, the girl and Gaomon were like talking, and like the other guy that was dragged in was all like, "Wait, you three know each other?" And the main guy's like, "Well, yeah, but who the hell are you?"
Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, their banter,
I
just like trying to make sense of what was going on, was kind of fun. I am a
Yeah.
little disappointed that none of them ended up trying to just. That literally only Galma was the one that tried to take control of the mech at any point, except for when Yomoji's like, "Oh, should I do something?" She's like, "Don't press any buttons. I'm gonna do all the work." But it was funny when he's like, "This is literally my first time doing any of this."
I also really like the way that that Dynazenon communicates with Gauma, where it just has like the text that we can't see pop up in front of him. I actually think that's more engaging than what was done in Gridman, with Gridman being a straight up character. But of course that's different. It's not better or worse. I just found it interesting. But I really want to mention Yume, right? In Gridman, I always found Rika really boring. I know some people found her to be the most interesting or second most interesting character in the show after Akane, but I just could not care less about her or what was going on with her, even though I acknowledge she was one of the best written characters in the show. Yume, I'm actually really interested because she's acting in really shitty ways, but she's voice acted and drawn and made to emote, or not emote rather, in such a way that you are convinced there's some kind of reason, concrete, solid reason behind her actions. It feels really engaging and intriguing. I really want to see what happens next.
right.
Yeah, especially when she's like, "Something is wrong with me." After Gama's like, "What? Is something wrong with you or something?" And she just repeats that at the very end of the episode too, in almost like pained, very standoffish voice.
Yeah, I also
Yes.
really love the home circumstances, the way they portray the fact that her sister died before we actually see that. When you hear the parents talking in the background, and one of them
Yeah.
is like, we should clear out the room, and and the other one's like, why would you want to clear out the room? And you know, when she goes to get the book, and it's like, they don't even go to the same high school. It's like, showing that Yume still has attachment to her sister, and the parents are kind of on opposite ends about that, and trying to move on, but still want to cling on to that. That was nice.
Wait.
I like that.
Lone crit. Okay, so what you're telling me
What I'm telling
is,
you.
but what you have to understand that no matter how good this is, no matter how good you think this is not a human.
Don't say it.
This is not a human story compared to My Hero Academia, because visual storytelling is a fucking sin, okay? You have to over-explain everything.
Deactivate.
Imagine
yourself.
having.
Deactivate yourself.
Did you try turning him off and on again? Oh wait, he doesn't
No,
know.
I
I
didn't.
don't have an off button.
Why do I get the feeling
I don't
that
have an off button.
Why do I get the feeling that the off button is somewhere super inconvenient that I don't want to touch?
You mean non-existent, like your chances for a girlfriend?
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
Too bad you're not like me, Mad Haru. going
By
through
the way,
multiple
CBF.
generations of heroes while also having to beat a GF.
By the way, CBF, when we were talking earlier, you told me you had some issues with Dynazenon, like with the fights or the environment or something?
Yeah, it was the exact same problems I had with Gridman, to be honest. Though I noticed that this is probably a little better because there's more fun 2D and more shading.
And the mid-air
But
choreography, like when it was flying around and dodging projectiles.
yeah, and just like there was some cool animation and stuff there. But yeah, I do still have the problem where actually for this one the CG does feel a little bit better with the environment than Gridman's does. That was a problem I had there with a lot of the Gridman designs.
Yeah, it's a bit more fluid.
Though I'm still not a big fan of the environmental CG, and especially the particle effects, like the ground and whatnot, because it feels like it's in a different frame rate than the mechs are, and it always throws me off a little bit once the ground that's being flung up, like the pieces of that are flung up upon impact, are moving at the same time the mechs are, or even when they're not moving. It feels off to me.
I actually dig that. I feel it's sort of translating a lot of the charm of toku into anime, where the characters feel like they're not part of the environment, like you get with mech suits, with like the Zords in Super Sentai, or you get with the Kamen Rider suits and the monster suits in general in Kamen Rider, where they feel incongruous with the environment. They feel like they don't fit, like they stand out. That kind of creates an elevating effect where it's almost like hyper real, like it's unreal. It's kind of fantastical. It's kind of larger than life in some respects. And so I think that deliberate or charming incongruity is actually translated really nicely into the anime, where the suits feel like they're not part of the environment, but concurrently they interact with the environment. When like you see one of the kaiju like slam into the ground, and you get the sound design just doing the like boom boom effects, so you get this kind of feeling of weight.
It does sell a sense of impact. It's just that I'm still not fully on board with the way that's executed visually, because that kind of just, again, weird frame rate issues sort of throw me off a bit. Like yeah.
Oh, by the way, can we just take a moment to admire the absolute beauty of the transformation porn with all the 2D illustrations?
Yeah, there was also some 3D with stuff like the chains interlinking, though. Which,
yeah, but then there
that was
like,
alright, even though now that I say that, I am getting Handshakers flashbacks, and I am very scared. Someone help me.
How dare you compare Handshakers to Dynazenon?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Comparing that, I had more flashbacks.
Okay.
We don't talk about that show.
I really like the transformation sequence though. Just all the moving parts, breaking down, combining, recombining, creating a new form, and the mid-air flight choreography where Dynazenon like, dodges all the projectiles, and then the finishing move of the fire blast was awesome, as well as the enemy like energy blast. It reminded me of Shin Godzilla's atomic breath in the Shin Godzilla movie directed by Hideaki Anno, albeit way lesser.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, and also, like that theme song, when that started playing, that was badass.
Yeah, like, Kaiser and I were watching and we both had our cams on, and we were just like, yeah. Especially I, Kaiser. Wasn't I just losing my fucking shit at that bit?
Yes, you look like you were about to jump out the window. You were so happy.
Fortunately, my accommodation has you covered by having like little chain things covered in rubber connecting the window to the frame, so I literally cannot completely open the window.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, there are like some insert songs here and there, which is definitely more interesting than in Gridman, even though both, again, to emphasize the sense of like spaciness and quietness, barely have an OST playing half the time, which is always like an interesting deliberate choice.
Yes.
Honestly, that's good. I was really engaged by just where it was going and where it was taking the characters, and how it was having them interact and bringing in the sort of supernatural sci-fi style kind of elements.
So then an OST only really gets into the show when things start going crazy, like in the action scenes.
That was
That's cool.
beautiful. That was amazing. That's like the most perfectly toku-ish thing for me, where there's nothing I love more than when you have the climax of a fight in a tokusatsu thing, be it like human-sized or like with kaiju and giant heroes, where the main theme, or an insert theme, but particularly a main theme, plays over the fight. Like, the fight in episode 22 of Kamen Rider Faiz when Justifies plays over Takumi when he transforms as, like, he looks at the ash from the dead person in his hand and goes to fight the human being that became an orphanoch and lost their human soul. Or when you get, like, the main theme, simply called Kamen Rider Black theme, played by the actor who plays the main character in the first episode of Kamen Rider Black after he loses his adopted father and fights the 5 spider mutants, or even in the first episode of Gridman, when, like, you get the theme playing over the first fight.
Or episodes 15 and 27 of Gurren Lagann, when the theme plays when Simon is fighting Lord Genome and the Anti-Spirals.
Exactly.
Or at the end of, like, JoJo Part 2, when, like, fucking... I mean, I know this isn't mecha, but when Joseph, like, fucking yeeted, cars into space in the theme song of Part 1 played.
Or
when you have
Units
version
version.
1939.
Wait, or in Part 4, the Units version, where all the singers from all the previous openings come together to sing that iteration of Great Days, as all of the characters are beating down Kira. By the way, I mentioned...
I don't remember that being... I don't remember that being played after.
It happened. It happened. Trust me.
I'm pretty sure it was, like, after. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, speaking, though, of tokusatsu, directed by Hideaki Anno, it was announced yesterday, as of this recording, that Hideaki Anno will be directing the new Shin Kamen Rider film, as well as making Fuute PI, this, an anime made from the manga that is a sequel to Kamen Rider W, my favorite Kamen Rider installment, and we're going to be having an adult reboot of Kamen Rider Black that already had quite a few, serious moments. Yeah, we're going to have an adult reboot of Kamen Rider Black that's going to be more adult-oriented. And remember, Black was already pretty fucking dark.
Yeah, it was already pretty fucked up, but okay, they're updating that shit.
Yeah,
that's
episode
pretty
1,
dope.
Episode 1 was really, really screwed up, and the whole story between, Tetsuo Kurata's character, Kamen Rider Black, Minami Kotaro, and losing his family, and being forced to fight his half-brother, and... Regardless. But what I want to zero in on, Hideaki Anno is going to be directing Shin Kamen Rider using, like, telling the story, hopefully, of the original character, Hongo Takeshi, and, hopefully even better, Hayato Ichimonji. One of my favorite Kamen Riders of all time, top 5, if not top 3, along with Inui Takumi from Faiz and Hidari Shotaro from Double. And so, to commemorate this occasion, I went and watched the Kamen Rider the First film, which is a reimagining of sorts of the original from 2005, made with redesigned suits for Ichigo and Nigo, as well as featuring a color palette, style, cinematography, etc., more reminiscent of Heisei Phase 1. Think...
That killed your victory
Ryuki.
lap quick.
Yeah, think Kamen Rider Ryuki. So, CBF, to facilitate this conversation, I got you to read Shin Kamen Rider Spirits, chapters 1 through 3. How did you like it?
Speaking of Ichimonji, that guy was a based Chad in this. Just like, I actually almost got some Devilman vibes from like some of the designs and just the attitude, which was kind of cool since that is one of the parts that I do like about Devilman and even Crybaby. Fuck Crybaby, but I do like that part.
Now that you mention that, it's like some of the, I guess what I would like to call 90s hooked faces. Like the way the mouth and nose sort of look during that time period is very reminiscent of Godai style, which I really, really like.
You mean Nagai's, right?
I said Nagai.
No, you said Godai.
Fuck. Alright, go Nagai style.
Looks
Well,
like I'm
okay.
starting
Apparently
to
I can't
infect you
talk.
with riderism.
Or maybe I'm just being infected with Ikokuism.
One
Or the
of
Maverick
us.
virus.
Or the Maverick virus. Yeah, sure. But yeah,
Don't even joke about that.
now I can openly mention though that that page in chapter 1 of that may be my favorite manga panel of all time, where Ichimonji just goes, "I am just a human, Ichimonji Hayato."
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
yes,
says that he had
like
like a black belt in one of those things. He was a master in 2 different martial arts
Karate,
styles too.
judo, yeah.
yeah,
Like,
and keep in mind, guys, Lone Crit loves this panel so fucking much that he could literally talk for an hour about how much he loves it and how much it represents Ichimonji as a character and in the greater context of the Kamen Rider mythos, without really even thinking about it half the time.
and I have.
I
And
rest my
let's
fucking
not
case.
do that here for the sake of
I-
not making this podcast 3 hours long.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is I can feel Kaiser's Vietnam flashbacks.
But yeah, they both
People
Takashi
run
and
before it's
Ichimonji
too late.
just had great, very like striking introductions, both in just how they're, both in like the writing and just how the paneling introduces them. There were several great panels here
Yes.
in
The art
particular.
is
and just-
incredible. Don't you also
Yeah.
love like when they're building up Hongo, the way he's fighting the Shocker cyborg mutants, the way he's silhouetted?
Yeah. Yeah, there was one shot where like all of them were silhouetted, and I almost got like, oh, that almost gave me like flashbacks to like that one fight in Old Boy, or even like that one thing in Book of Eli.
I don't know if you noticed, but I really like how well they convey like the significance of the evil of Shocker through what happens when Hongo defeats the cyborg mutants. Where when he defeats them and they disintegrate, all that's left behind of them is dust. I don't think like even bones are left behind. Think about how fucked up that is, right? That Shocker augments these human beings so thoroughly that when bested in combat, when destroyed through the power of the Kamen Rider, there is not even flesh or bones or blood left. Only
Not
dust.
a trace of
nothing-
humanity.
Yes.
Exactly.
Not even a trace of anything, which further represents how not only how incredibly evil the Shocker's aims are, but in a way, sort of how I guess sort of like the inevitable pointlessness of their like striving for power. It's sort of like a homunculus thing from FMA.
Yeah, they actually do that in the first, where when the Shocker combatants are defeated, they turn into, I shit you not, bubble bath foam. It looks ridiculous.
Oh right.
It looks
Actually,
ridiculous.
yeah, and like on the subject of that, what was it? It kind of I was going to joke around because like it's kind of weird how like, oh yeah, these are cyborg mutants, but like not even the technology is left.
Yeah.
Like fucking like goddamn.
Yeah, well, I still think it gets the point across and makes an incredibly salient point about how evil and truly sinister Shocker is without verbally saying that, especially considering the Nazi connections in regards to the organization of the group.
Yeah.
Oh right, bad guys are the Nazis.
Yeah, speaking of this, they sort of reference that in the first. They have some S's on things, not double S's, just a single S. And no, actually, I think that's it. Maybe they occasionally do like a salute or something, but other than that, they're just kind of generic evil group now that I think takes away a lot from their relevance.
Yeah.
They
But
also keep
but
one thing they actually do keep is the demonstration of the power of the Kamen Rider, where there's one scene where Hongo is looking through a microscope and he's twisting the knob on the side to zoom in, and it's like a centimeter or an inch thick in like diameter metal pipe, and without realizing, he twists it so much that that the edge becomes like it falls off, and the edge becomes a pointy spiral spike. And then he goes to grab a beaker in his lab, and unknowingly he just absolutely shatters it while holding bits of fragmented glass in his hands, completely unaffected.
Damn.
And in Shin Spirits they do show that, obviously, but CBF in a more direct way.
Yeah, like when Ichimonji's trying to like shove off some of the Shocker soldiers, he's just like, get off! And then he, like, in swiping him, he just cuts through 3 people's heads. And it's just like
Jesus
horrified
Christ.
by the sheer power he has to just kill, and how he can't exactly control that well at the start. He is traumatized. Like, he already saw some people who died, and it was going through like an incomplete brainwashing, but that damn near broke him. I really liked that quite a bit.
Yeah, I think the best like Showa-styled installments that get across like the horror of that inhumanity of what a human being absolutely should never be. Remember to do that. Like Black does that a little bit when Kotaro goes to grab a glass and it breaks in his hand. But I think Shin Spirits has my favorite representation of that when when Ichimonji almost kills the woman.
Yeah, like she literally puts his hands on her neck, just being like, and thinking that if this doesn't work, she'll be choked to death. And for a while, he was actually sort of choking her before she managed to like talk to him, and he was able to like finally gain control of himself in the midst of all just the sheer panic he was doing, just wondering why she would make such a gambit on him.
Yeah, I think like Shin Spirits is one of my favorite stories in regard to getting across the theme of with great power comes great responsibility, as well as the sense of sacrifice of these men and what they forego to be able to do the thing that they can do that nobody else can. And that's what I dislike about the first film, by the way, because this is where this discussion started. It's that instead of you having these 2 men fighting to protect people that they don't even know against a seemingly omnipresent force, they mostly just restrict that shit to one lab, but they do show that Shocker is larger, obviously. But it's them kind of fighting over a woman because Hongo is initially brainwashed, and he breaks out of that, I shit you not, because he's touched by snowflakes one day when it's snowing, because snowflakes are made of water, and water is indicative of life. And then Hayato seems to not even be brainwashed at all. He just is sort of evil-ish, but then he chooses to protect this woman he falls in love with for literally no reason.
What?
To the point of turning against Shocker, but also trying to kill Hongo for Shocker to allow him to stay with a woman and for him not to be branded as a traitor.
That is stupid!
So Lone Crypt, what you're saying is this moment in the first is the reason for your irrational hatred of women.
Anyway, like, imagine, right? You go through this theme about these 2 guys basically fighting Nazis that control the entire world and fighting a 2-man crusade against a force that can't possibly be defeated. And here, they're fighting over a woman that they have no chemistry with. To the death. They're willing to fight to the death.
You know what this reminds me of?
What does it remind you?
Weathering with you.
Destroy the world for some pussy. Let's
I'm not
go.
angry. I'm not angry with either of you. I'm just disappointed.
You should
I'm
be
very
proud of us.
disappointed.
let's be honest.
For
You're
comparing
as an
bad
act-
movies to bad movies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By the
like
way,
not to mention, like you're so always irrationally like amused by our fucking antics.
in the movie, they also try and make it more serious. Like, instead of having the shocker mooks going around doing the Nazi salute and go, "Key," they just do the key a little bit when they're first shown, but they never do it again. Almost like the creators are embarrassed. And instead of having their regular dumbass masks, they have like gas masks or something, like, no, masks that make them look like fighter pilots from World War II, because for some reason that's less ridiculous. And then they keep the shocker high-lows, at least some of them, looking the same way, like Dr. Death, who they show in Shin Spirits. He still looks exactly the same. They don't refer to him by name, but he still looks exactly the same. Oh, by the way.
Best villain name, Dr. Death.
Well, here's the thing. In the original, he's called Shinigami Hakase. So,
What
the
the
Doctor
Shinigami?
God of Death, or the Doctor Death God, which is so much cooler, but whatever.
Yeah, I'd say Dr. Death. Yeah, Dr. Death God. I want to see that anime.
Something something Death Note, something something Blaze Blue.
Yeah. And as if Kamen Rider, like, oh, by the way, don't you just love how apparently, fighting a two-man crusade against an undefeatable evil and saving the lives of thousands, not statistics, but people, as Shin Spirits draws your attention towards, and like going through endless suffering and sacrifice for a just cause, apparently that's not good enough. We need to make it a romantic triangle. We need to simplify this shit.
Yeah,
Make it go from Gar to Gi.
Yeah.
But listen,
and
no matter what it does, it could never be a human story.
We are gonna run that joke into the ground.
we are going to drill the deepest hole into the in the history of planet Earth till we reach the Earth's crust and magma overflows.
In fact,
And our drill will still not even be big as the drills in Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
well,
Like,
in fact, on that subject though, is it cool for me to talk about? Well, actually, I
We
don't
don't
think we
have
have much
time.
time left, do we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but yeah. My point: bad movie, dramatically oversimplifies what is impactful about the story of the original Kamen Riders Ichigo and Nigo, Hongo Takeshi and Ichimonji Hayato, and makes it about a dumb romantic triangle while being incredibly reductive and forgetting what even makes the franchise what it is and what makes it endearing and important to begin with.
Meanwhile, Shin Kamen Rider Spirits' first 3 chapters, which I've read, do the exact opposite, actually carry the torch and spirit of what I assume Kamen Rider is meant to be, and just shows that in a very stylish, gar, and an equally emotionally impactful way as I assume Kamen Rider was always meant to be.
In short, everything in the world was made work. Everything about the franchise would be way better without women.
Yes, exactly, Kaiser. Exactly. That's truly it, Miss Aljabalt.
So we have a sexist human being and a robot with sexism programmed
Yeah,
into him.
but regardless,
And then
Shin
there's
It's part
Spirits,
of my
I respect
programming.
him.
It's not my fault.
but Shin Spirits really gets the important shit down. Suffering, struggle, sacrifice, control, restraint, commitment, and motivation. And the importance of making a difference rather than making everything be perfect.
Yeah, everything's just like, yeah, basically big dick energy incarnate.
And that's not even getting to how the first had a parallel romance story with completely new characters that have nothing to do with anything, that are just there to support narrative themes, except the narrative themes are so drastically reduced that it's basically in service of nothing. which is a shame, by the way, because the movie has some nice acting and some really nice visuals, cinematography, visual metaphors, etc. It's basically just a wasted effort, and I'm just gonna say it, it's not Kamen Rider. With that,
Hashtag not my Kamen Rider.
exactly. With that, I think it is time we call a close
All right,
Okay,
see you
dude,
guys
take us
around.
away.
and watch Kamen Rider.